The tallest Sasquatch grunted back, a sound that echoed through the forest like a deep drumbeat. He seemed to shrug, or was it just the way his massive shoulders moved? Either way, he stepped into the clearing, his enormous hands gesturing toward the scattered berries and the untouched patch of grass. Meanwhile, the hiker's flight grew more frantic. Someone yelled, "I can't see the trail," while another sobbed, clutching a branch for support. One man twisted his ankle on a hidden root, collapsing with a pained cry. "We're gonna die out here," another voice wailed. By the time the group realized they were far from the original path, their breaths were ragged, their clothes torn and their skin covered in scratches from the unforgiving forest. The laughter and casual confidence from earlier felt like a distant memory. Back in the clearing, the Sasquatches sat in a semicircle, calmly munching on berries. The largest one glanced once more in the direction the humans had fled, then turned his attention to the smaller ones, letting out a low, almost amused grunt. The hikers now huddled together and lost in the dense forest, never looked back to see the Sasquatches simply enjoying their meal. To them, the nightmare would forever remain. A close encounter with creatures that had stared into their very souls and left them broken, battered and terrified. The hikers stumbled through the dense forest, their breath ragged, fear driving them forward, even as exhaustion begged them to stop. Nightfall was creeping in, and the once vivid hues of the forest now blurred into shadows that seemed alive. Every rustle, every snap of a twig made their hearts race. One of the hikers, limping from a twisted ankle, whispered, "We're never getting out of here." Another shushed him sharply, their own voice shaking. They pressed on, their only hope being to find the original path, or, at the very least, some sign of civilization. Behind them, the forest grew unervingly quiet. The usual chirps of crickets and calls of birds were absent, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to press down on them. The hikers didn't notice when the towering figure of their guide emerged silently from the shadows. Unaware, the hikers finally stumbled into a small clearing. Relief washed over them when they spotted a faint, weathered wooden sign half buried in moss. "Trailhead, 1 mile," it read. Excitement and hope surged through the group. "We're close," someone cried. But as they prepared to move, a low, guttural growl echoed through the clearing. The sound froze them in their tracks. Slowly, they turned, and there, just at the edge of the clearing, stood their guide, no longer an amusing costume or a misunderstood host, but something primal, towering, and undeniably real. It didn't move toward them, didn't lunge or growl again. It simply stood, its eyes reflecting the faint moonlight. Behind it, deeper in the forest, the 3 smaller Sasquatches watched as well, their shapes barely visible in the shadows. "What do we do?" The hiker whispered, clutching a broken branch as a makeshift weapon. "No sudden moves," another murmured, stepping backward toward the faint path. "We just need to—" The lead Sasquatch let out a sound, a low, resonant hum that wasn't aggressive, but carried a weight of finality. It stepped aside, leaving the path behind it open. The group hesitated, unsure if this was a warning, a test, or some unspoken permission to leave. "Go," one of them whispered urgently. "Now." They moved as quickly as their battered bodies allowed, not daring to look back. The forest seemed to part for them now, the path clearer. as though the Sasquatch had guided them here on purpose. When they finally burst out of the trees and onto the gravel parking lot at the trailhead, the sight of their cars illuminated by the dim glow of the trailhead lamp brought tears of relief. They collapsed onto the ground, their hearts pounding. One of the hikers, still trembling, turned to glance back at the forest. The Sasquatch stood at the edge, watching. Its expression was unreadable, but it lingered only a moment before melting back into the shadows. The group didn't speak as they piled into their cars and drove away. What could they say? No one would believe them, but each of them knew they'd never return to Blackwood Forest again, not on Halloween, not ever. As they left, deep in the forest, the Sasquatch returned to the clearing where the others waited. The tallest one settled down among the group, reaching for a handful of berries. The night grew still once more, and the forest reclaimed its secrets, as it always had.